Berkshire Fire Authority at 6:30 on Monday, 27th of April. We very much
helps if I put the squawk on here. So, good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority. I'm the Chair, Jeff Brooks. I welcome Catherine Richardson from HMI this evening. Welcome. We've got a good turnout, which is appropriate. We always get a good turnout, Catherine. Always a good turnout. And welcome to members. Do I have, I've lost faith for a moment, but Michaela, you can help me. Do I have apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Bennyworth and Councillor Stedman.
Grateful to you, thank you very much indeed. And members, do we have any declarations of interest, please? Don't see any. Thank you very much. So members, on page 7 to 18, we have the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of February. Obviously particularly interested on actions, and we were so efficient, there was only one, which I see on page 15. Is anybody able to tell me about the action taken on page 15?
Chair.
HCS against it.
Yeah, I can pick that up. Yes, for the AFA consultation, we have sent the consultation direct to schools via email at the beginning of the consultation, and we've been following up this up throughout the consultation with another one halfway through and contacting them when needed.
Very grateful, and I'm glad you mentioned the consultation, Mr. Brimble. Could you just remind people, and therefore via video, when it concludes, please?
Yes, so this is the automatic fire alarm consultation and will conclude on the 13th of May.
Grateful for that, and that's just a little plug for anybody who hasn't responded on the consultation, that there is still plenty of time to do so. Thank you very much. So members, are you comfortable with the minutes, and would I get a proposer to accept the minutes? If I asked you kindly. Councillor Billy Drummond, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd-Bay. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item number 4, petitions and questions to the public, understanding rules 19 and 25. Haven't received any, thank you very much. And so we're into a fairly lengthy chair's announcements. And of course, the first one up is to just draw attention to the automatic fire alarm consultation. We've been asking people across Berkshire to consider how their fire and rescue service responds. The consultation focuses on how we respond in buildings such as shops, offices, leisure centres, colleges, sports grounds, libraries, schools and health centres. A full list of all buildings affected by the consultation is available on the service's website. False alarms account for 45% of all the incidents we attend, and the majority of these are the result of automatic fire alarm systems, of which we know 99% require no action by our service. Obviously this causes significant disruption to the delivery of essential services and training. So the consultation, which I teased out of Mr. Bramble, is running for 10 weeks in total, and will close on Monday the 13th. And I do encourage members to share it around the communities to ensure we capture as broad a view as possible on the 3 proposed changes to our response. And the Vice Chair and I have just done a short video which can go out on media after the 2nd of May. You'll understand why. And I understand that we are also pressing for radio and other media to get on board and just flag this up.
See, millions will then tune in after this.
I'm expecting many, I don't know about millions, we will see. I didn't think that you and I was that big a call to people actually, but we will see. So thank you for that. A pretty important piece of work we're undertaking on automatic fire alarms. We published our people strategy. It covers a 3-year period from 24 to 27 to align to our corporate plan and community risk management, CRMP. The strategy was originally written and consulted on at the end of 2022, and shortly after this, the whole fire sector came under increased scrutiny publicly. In response to this evolving landscape, the rollout and implementation was paused, and subsequently the service spent the whole of 2023 engaging people across the service about their experiences of working in the service. The original strategy has been revised to reflect what was heard and learnt. The strategy contains 8 objectives that are broad in nature, and the intent is to develop delivery plans for each one of them as part of our annual planning process. This will result in a number of different work streams and work packages, making a key thread of our development programme. Please do take the time to read the refreshed people strategy. Improved maternity and adoption leave pay. I'm delighted that we're able to increase our enhanced maternity and adoption offering with up to 52 weeks full pay inclusive of annual leave, bank holidays and keeping in touch days. Our people are at the core of what helps deliver our critical services to the people of Royal Berkshire, and which is so appreciated. This is just one of a number of steps we are taking to ensure our staff are being heard, and we are doing what we can to better look after them. This enhancement further embeds our commitment to continue to build an inclusive culture where everyone feels valued and has been consulted. Charity car washes. Over the past month, several fire stations across the county have hosted the first charity car washes of the year to raise money for the Firefighters Charity. Firefighters, volunteers, cadets from Caversham Road, Crowthorne, Newbury and Bracknell fire stations have each hosted a car wash in support of the charity, and in total, our staff and volunteers have already raised an incredible £4,900 for the Firefighters Charity. And I'd like to thank everyone involved, as well as members of the public who came out and donated generously in support of this very important cause. During 23-24, the Thames Valley Collaboration Breathing Apparatus Alignment Project, now there's a name for you that conjures up something, or Breathing Apparatus Project, I suggest, went live. The £1.7 million collaboration project involved the 3 fire and rescue services of the Thames Valley. Running over 3 years, the Breathing Apparatus project has been one of the most significant combined collaboration investments to date. And as part of this project, collaborative procurement has saved £1.1 million across the total contract. The project has involved operational and support staff from across all 3 services, including procurement, training, fleet, health and safety, policy and equipment teams, as well as firefighters themselves. Further savings are being made as additional breathing apparatus support appliances are no longer required to be deployed on over-the-border fire incidents. And this change in procedure was implemented from the Thames Valley Fire Control in January this year. This project forms part of an aligned commitment to ensure firefighters across the Thames Valley have the best equipment to enable them to provide the best possible response to our communities. And the project has now successfully delivered more than 4,000 items of new firefighting equipment to firefighters operating out of the 60 fire stations across Berkshire, Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire. The new sets have improved the safety and well-being of operational staff through personal issue face masks, lighter breathing apparatus sets and live telemetry to the entry control point, enabling real-time monitoring of air consumption, status of the wearer, and the wear temperature of each breathing apparatus set whilst in use at an incident. Whole-time recruitment. Over the past 2 months, our latest cohort of whole-time firefighter apprentices have been hard at work completing their initial training course, and we're now fast approaching their graduation ceremony, marking the completion of the first phase of their journey into becoming firefighters. I'd like to invite all members, and I hope you've got it in your diary, to join me at Maidenhead Fire Station on Friday the 10th of May to celebrate our latest recruits and the progress they have made so far. Firefighter career discovery sessions. Following a successful pilot in 2023, we've announced another series of firefighter career discovery sessions to help more people find out more about the role of a firefighter. Sessions will begin on the 30th of April and run until the 27th of June this year. And so if you have contacts in the community, particularly those that may be unfamiliar with the work of the Fire and Rescue Service, we would be grateful if you would share this information with them. Moving forward, these sessions will be held on a rolling basis to enable us to take a more proactive and structured approach. Additionally, this will help us to build a wider network of applicants across the region and establish more relationships with community groups. And that's the answer. The community groups are the ones who we can get this word out right across a diverse population, right across ethnic groups. This is where we need to go and talk to people and make them aware of it. So anyone interested in attending is asked to register in advance through our website at rbfrs.co.uk/discovery. Veterans Hub event, I'm pleased to announce that, I thought you had your maracas out there for a moment, Councillor Smith. I'm pleased to announce that the service will be hosting the latest event in the series of successful Armed Forces Veterans Hub events on Tuesday the 14th of May at Crowthorne Community Fire Station. Between 10 and 1 p.m, attendees will be able to speak to a range of organisations. There's a need to book in advance, so I'd like to ask members to please spread the word to anyone who may be interested in coming along and taking part. And I did attend one at Crowthorne Fire Station as the Mayor of Thatcham about probably 15 months ago or so, and it was an excellent event and I do recommend it. Fire Cadet graduation, I'd like to notify members that our current cohort of fire cadets will celebrate their graduation on the afternoon of Wednesday the 10th of July. I attended last year's graduation and was impressed by the cadets and the creative, fire safety inspired demonstrations they performed for families and friends gathered at Newbury Fire Station. We've not yet confirmed this year's venue, but members should have received a hold in their RBFRS Outlook diaries. If you've not yet received an invitation, please contact them, Faith or Michaela. And I look forward to seeing you there. It's a really very nice event, and hopefully the weather is good for us. I now come to events around Fire Authority members, two of whom will be standing down in May 2024. I'll be asking them both to come forward shortly, and I know that certainly Councillor Hellier-Simons would wish to say a few words. Councillor Pauline Hellier-Simons joined the Fire Authority in June 2006. During her time on the authority, Pauline has been Vice Chair of the Management Committee of Fire Authority, Chair of the Member Development Working Group and Group Leader for the Disabled Party. She's involved in many other working parties and committees over 18 years. That's a body of work that she can be proud of. And I, for one, would say how proud we are to have had you here. Thank you. And I'll call you up shortly, if I may. Councillor Maureen Malvern joined in June 2022. I was appointed as Vice Chair of Audit and Governance Committee from June 2022 to May 2023. She's also been our Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Member Champion for the past 18 months. So what I'd like to do now, and I believe I'll call Morag up first. Where are you, Morag? I can't see it. I'll call Morag up first, and then I will ask you to come up, Pauline, with Tina Mackenzie-Brown as well, please. No? Tina. Yeah, sorry. So, Maureen, you're first up, please. Thank you so much for your work.
You're very welcome.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have
think
enjoyed
you have.
It's been a privilege.
We give you something that says thank you
Absolutely.
in recognition of your services. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you.
And we expect you to look after this.
I will treasure that. That's really kind. Thank you, everybody.
We thought that was something that would remind you that. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Thank you, thank you.
That's lovely. Really good. Thanks.
Pauline and Tina, if you'd like to come up. You think I've done too? We've got the standard recognition for, you know.
Oh, I
you
value that, thank you.
But we felt we deserved something else as well. So.
Well, it's not a bottle of whiskey.
It might be a flask with a lot of whiskey in it, but sadly not. We have put together.
Oh, lovely.
Okay, so this
That is beautiful.
members,
Thank you so much.
is a glass plaque. Okay, and it says, "With our greatest appreciation, presented to Councillor Pauline Elliott-Simons, in grateful recognition of your dedication and service to the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority. With best wishes from your friends and colleagues from the Fire Authority and within the service." Now,
Oh, that is lovely.
I would like to thank you personally, because in the time I've been here, you have not played politics. You have looked first, second and third about what this service required. It has helped the officers tremendously. It has helped the service to do a much better job. When we go back to our unitaries, we have a good old scrap politics. We managed to avoid it here for the greater common good, and you played a huge part in that. Thank you.
May I say a few words?
Over to you. I'll stop talking. All they've heard is me so far tonight.
All
Over
undeserved
to you.
what you said, Jeff, but thank you.
Over to you.
I've been a borough councillor for 42 years and I must honestly say that the 18 years I've been on the Fire Authority are the ones I've enjoyed the most in all the work I've done as a councillor, because everybody here is just so committed to wanting to do the best for their community. I've done a number of jobs over those years. I've helped the officers to set up the people strategy, the member development strategy. I was chairman of the Strategic Assets Group, which is now the Estates Group. But as vice chairman, I think the proudest things I've done is to be on the panel where I have appointed the best 3 chiefs that we've ever had and the best deputies that we've ever had. And between them, they've worked stage by stage to make us into really genuinely one team. And I have been delighted to watch that happen. So thank you to all of you senior leaders and all of the other senior officers that I've worked with for many years in some cases. The other thing that I really have valued, and Jeff referred to it, is that this is a completely non-political organisation. And I've really enjoyed working with Jeff and with Paul. And I'm glad for both of them that they've had a chance to become chairman, in Jeff's case, for the second time. And it really has been a joy to work with all of you and see how this Fire Authority has grown to be one of the best in the country, and I really believe that. In fact, I know it because I'm an LGA peer member, and as that, I've done a number of peer reviews of other fire authorities from North Yorkshire, Merseyside in the north, down to Cornwall in the south, and all places in between. And although I've met some good ones, I don't think I've ever found one that's better than the Berkshire service. And I genuinely believe that, and I've been doing that for a number of years. So, first, finally, thank you for all of your companionship and friendship. I shall genuinely miss the Fire Authority. I really will. It's the bit I'll miss the most of all of giving up as a councillor. And I really have valued the friendship and comradeship that I've received here. And thank you for those wonderful gifts. They're just so unexpected
But we
and
have to load you
beautiful.
up further.
That as well. Thank you very much
I think, yes, we want the picture. Just take the picture. I'm going to take this out of the box again. Talk amongst yourself, members. Very important stuff going on over here. Okay, again. 3, 2, 1. Scroll the screen. 3, 2, 1. Stuff to go off. Last one. 3, 2, 1. Can take another one. It's all right. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. You're happy with that. Okay, and I think Tina wants to come forward as well.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Pauline, you've taken all my words. Thank you. You've been genuinely a very good leader, and we don't do politics, but from the Conservative group. Thank you for your leadership, your comradeship. So just a small thing from us, and a little card which I'll put down to you. So thank you, and I'm sure now you can hang up the axe.
No, I think
So the plant's been taken down.
Thank you very much for that, members. And that concludes my announcements, which is now on to item 6. Concludes the announcements. No, it doesn't. One final thing. A number of you, happily not West Berkshire this year, will be standing for election on May the 2nd. And we do wish the following members the best of luck. Wendy Griffith, Dave McElroy, Mike Smith, and Rachel Shepherd-Debay. And we look forward to them coming back in the future. Thank you. Go back to your constituency and prepare to come back in a few weeks' time. Thank you very much. Okay. Issues arising from Audit and Governance Committee? None. Questions from members under Standing Order 30? None received. Notices of motion under Standing Order 44? None received. Here, recommendation of committees? No recommendation received at this time. The annual plan, members, I'm going to shut up now and let the annual plan be introduced. I think Mr. Bremble is probably going to do that. And then members, I'm sure, will want to ask questions and make comments. Page 19, please, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The report that we bring to members this evening is the Service's annual plan for 2024 to 25. The plan sets out the objectives and key deliverables for the Service for the year under priority programmes. These will contribute to the achievement of the Fire Authority's strategic commitments. I will now outline each area that is covered within the plan. The Fire Authority's Community Risk Management Plan, the section in there, sets out how the Service will manage risk within the county to improve the safety of the community of Berkshire. And the annual plan sets out what the Service will achieve over the course of this year towards the CRMP and ultimately managing the risk for the communities. The next area in the plan is the development programme. This sets out how we as a Service will develop the Service and our culture under 5 pillars. These pillars being people, place, processes and systems, governance and communication and engagement. And under each pillar there are objectives set for this year's to achieve. The Thames Valley Collaboration Programme sets out how we will collaborate with our partners to better serve communities in the most effective way across Thames Valley. This meets our duty to collaborate with our partners. And as you mentioned earlier, Chair, our staff are important to us, and the people strategy is within our annual plan and it was launched this year and again sets out how we will develop our workforce going forward. The sustainability commitment is how the authority is committed to reducing the impact of the organisation on the environment and reducing carbon footprint. And the section on risk and assurance section of the plan outlines how through both internal and external processes the authority will get assurance that the service is running how it should. The concluding section outlines the corporate measures that the service will report against to confirm it is delivering to the commitments against the commitments in the communities of Berkshire. The service continues to learn and has adjusted 8 of the corporate measures this year, and Appendix B provides members of the rationale for these adjustments. I'd like to draw members' attention to the changes in the strategic commitment. Following the members' workshop earlier this year, members felt that the wording and the sustainability commitment, which is on page 27 of your packs, could be more robust, and this wording has been changed to include the words "take meaningful action to help address the climate emergency." And finally, I'd also like to remind members that this October we will have an inspection being carried out by His Majesty's Inspector at Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Service, and as such we as a service will need to ensure that we have flexibility within this plan to address any areas highlighted by the inspection should they arise. I'll now open that up for questions, Chair.
Members, thank you, Paul. Looking for members now, I think Councillor Smith I'll call first, because I know you have some points to make.
Okay, under the corporate measures, number 9, just on the bottom of page 41. The target for this year, it just says monitor. The percentage of safety audits of premises identified as high and very high risk in our risk-based inspection programme, including in the fine spec. I just thought, couldn't this have a number in it? Monitor it.
And Councillor Smith, you've got another couple on page 21 where we're talking about monitoring.
Thank you.
Yeah, just add those. If Mr. Brent wants to come back on that. To start with, sir. Monitoring is not much of a target, I think is the point being made. Paul, bottom of page 19, number 9. Katie Mills wants to help us, please do.
So it introduced originally because we redid our risk-based inspection programme. The target in effect is inherent because any property that's on the risk-based inspection programme, if it has a risk associated with it, will then have a time frame that you're expected to complete the audit within. So by reporting on the proportion, you are showing how many has been completed within the period. I do understand what you're saying, monitored targets aren't always useful. This one will demonstrate to us the number completed within the required time frame, the proportion that was completed.
I have no idea how many buildings came fall into this.
Yeah, and it is thousands, and we can certainly ensure that as we're reporting on that, we provide the context and the numbers in the narrative that we provide. But certainly, because it's the proportion of fire safety conducted against, we'll make sure we're reporting on that and clarifying that in the reporting that we do. But effectively, we're aiming for 100% completed within the required timescales.
I think that's the point, and I think that's the point that might want to be minuted, because we're monitoring 100%, and that might have been helpful here, but we'll put it in the minutes. Does that help, Councillor Smith?
Yes,
on that point?
It's been the same for the last
Yeah. Anybody want to pick up 20.25? Number of complaints received, number of compliments received. Now, we would have had a baseline, which was actually 22-23. We haven't got 23-24 yet, but would we not be comparing 22-23 against the coming year? Paul Bremel.
Yeah, Chair, we've continued just to monitor these as there's no, we don't want to look at reducing members of the public from raising complaints so that we can see what's going on, so that we don't set a target against that because there's no proactive action to bring down those complaints.
Yeah.
And again, compliments, it's the numbers we just received across the year. They can be up and down over the year, so again, we don't generally put a target against them, we just monitor what that level is so we can understand how people are feeding back into the organisation from the public.
Everybody will understand that, but again, 22-23 would have given us some idea of the number of complaints and compliments we tend to get. But, you know, we are
Certainly,
where we are in that.
Chair, going through on reporting again, like with the other one, we can certainly put that as a figure within our reporting throughout the year, so we can see what that looks
Yeah.
like comparable going forward.
I think that's helpful. Councillor Smith,
Yes, thank you. That'll be fine.
you have others, sir?
I did on page 44, and it talks on the item 26, the working time loss to sickness across of staff groups. It said it hasn't changed, but on page 113 it talks about the work of the absentee and sickness working group. I'm just wondering whether or not are we improving, basically?
Again, I think the context is the last known numbers. So in 22-23, did we achieve 5% max? And are we not making ourselves clear?
Chair.
Becky?
Yes, I guess what I would say in terms of the working time loss to sickness, we measure that. Obviously our figures can be skewed by long-term absences and some other factors that will move that dial. In terms of that, whether we achieved the 5%, we struggled in terms of the outturn with sickness. But what we continue to do is work really hard to understand the trends and make sure that the health provision is addressed, to meet that need, or the training and the education. And so obviously later in the report, in the member champion report, there's a lot of work that is highlighted there in terms of the improvement. But sickness is always a very difficult thing, because if you have long-term sick, it can skew the figures. So the targeting is a sort of reflection on what we think we can healthily drive towards.
Okay, so the question really was, do you think we're improving, apart from the odd outlook?
Yes, we're always improving the way that we manage sickness and how we support people through difficult times and drive short-term sickness. But I guess it's like, yes, you'd want to see that trajectory go down, in terms of sickness, but you can make improvements but not necessarily see an impact, because if there's a COVID hike or there's, we had a number of long-term absences, you have got less control over those.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Mackenzie Grant.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Becky, can I ask you to clarify what on the RIDOR it's got 4 max? You only allow 4 a year, or is that 4 that we know about?
I think that's just the benchmark to try and drive down the reportable accidents in that space. So
Thank you.
The Chief is going to give a point of clarity on this.
Thank you. Maybe not. I'll share. Can I borrow your?
Thank you. Just to be clear for members, so obviously what we're suggesting here are the corporate measures for the coming year, with a review of what the corporate measure was for the previous year. The corporate measures are then reported through the corporate performance report, which is scrutinised by the Audit and Governance Committee, which contains a lot more data around the trend lines. So that's where we would be looking at. So it says maximum of 4 for RIDDLE, for example. How many did we actually have? And members could be asking questions in that forum. Equally with the absence levels and what we're doing. So the actual statistics and the drill down, excuse me, into the data of where we are against that 5% will be monitored through that corporate performance report of the Audit and Governance Committee. So the purpose of this report is to get members to agree with the actual corporate measure for the coming year in comparison to what the headline measure was in the previous year, and where we're suggesting amendments to that corporate measure. Appendix B tells you what the rationale behind that amendment is. So the detail will be scrutinised in AG. Thank you.
I think Councillor Harry Simons want to come in?
Thank you. I raise this every year, but I still don't see any statistics in the papers. I know we record the riddles, but do we insist that people record when there's been a near miss, which can be just as important as the actual riddle? And if we do, can they not come into the statistics that we have printed? Because if there's a near miss, it's great it wasn't an accident, but it could well have been, and I think we need to know that those things are happening. And more to the point, I think we need to know that the people are recording them to make them more aware of the importance of them.
I think Becky was nodding, and I'm looking around at other officers to say that that not be unreasonable. But I think that's a yes.
Yes, I was just going to say, if I
I
could
think
make...
it might have helped in hindsight. I take my share of the blame on this. If we'd given the last sort of KPI performance that we had in terms of the corporate performance. But none of these are unchallenging. Let's be clear about that. So, obviously, having set them this evening, we'll be measuring them and monitoring them, all of them, very regularly. Are members comfortable?
Sorry, Councillor Griffiths.
Councillor Griffith, beg your pardon.
On the people's strategy, on page 35, it says that you're looking to increase the diversity of the workforce by 100% in the next 3 years. And I just wondered if there was a way to firm that up in terms of how are you going to do that. There's no sentence in here that says this is how we'll achieve that.
Oh, I think that's very, very welcome as a question. And I'm going to ask, I think, Becky, probably, to come back on that. Would it be you, Becky?
Yes, I can say that what we've been doing is reviewing what the best way to demonstrate and achieve that, and that will be considered by our EDI steering group. And I think once we've come to a conclusion that that's the best way, we'll be able to be more articulate about it.
I think, again, I'll bring you in a sec, Vice Chair. I think, again, it's something that we are watching very carefully against that target. Vice Chairman?
Also, yeah, Vice Chair. Also on that target, it says increase it by 100%. So it's a little bit unclear as to what is that the baseline that we have now. So it was a bit ambiguous. I felt. Also, going to discuss this bit.
Are you looking at numbers?
Numbers, yeah.
To make you know that you.
Yeah, because if you see what I see, Becky, it's slightly ambiguous.
Yeah, you see. The baseline we're going to work on will be January 2024, so we can't actually say what that is at the moment. I don't know if that helps. It's left it up in the air, but when would you expect to have the January 24 baseline? Katie, yeah?
So for the purpose of the objective, we have that information now. When the objective was written, what it recognises is that diversity is very broad. So it's 100%, that could be 100% of lots of different types of diversity, which is why it's set in the objective in this way. But obviously we have that baseline and staff information which we will monitor against moving forward. So the way it's written is just reflective that diversity is more complicated than just male and female, as an example. Covers a broad range of different types of diversity, and Becky and the team are developing and continue to monitor ways of improving our EDI data collection and how we can report and monitor on those things.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, the other thing is on page 48, target 19, is the automatic fire alarm figure, which I know we're out to, after obviously there'll be floods of people coming in after our video chair, but serious point, we want as many people as possible to respond, but we are hopefully changing that policy, so will that
I think I'd like to come in on that.
target change? So
I'd like to come in on that.
Go for it, you go.
Because I think we're a hostage to fortune if we start anticipating the outcome of the consultation and allowing for it in here. So, sorry, Vice Chair, I'm not sure I want to progress that, because we're, as I say, I don't want to signal anything that says we're expecting this, so this becomes that.
I do understand that, but I think we can revise that figure once we've made a decision in some ways. There's 30%, which it seems, anyhow. But you understand what I'm trying to say, is that the service plan, because obviously is an evolving thing. And some of the applicant comments only can change, so, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Billy Drummond.
Thank you, Chair. On page 49, bullet point 28, the number of formal grievances raised by staff under the grievance, bullying and harassment policy has got monitored. Are these numbers coming down?
Becky.
Yes, so we're monitoring these as you would expect, and there are different levels. We report these again through to audit and governance, and there was a recent paper to management committee and one to go back to audit and governance at the end of the year. No, they don't always go down. I think there's something a bit like the complaints that people raising issues and having them heard and being investigated and you know, making sure that you've got the opportunity and you've got some trust in people to raise things in that way that they can have duly considered is healthy. So I think what's important is to pay attention to what is being raised, whether there's trends, whether there's hotspots, what learning, what action, how that's addressed, you know, what does that tell us, how does that track with other information. And so those are the things that we do to try and you know, look at what's happening in a space, but use wider sets of information to tell a picture.
Okay, thank you. I think, you know, being careful in setting numbers, as we did with, say, complaints, you know, we had 20 complaints last year, let's get down to 10, but actually 20 is still appropriate because of different reasons. Grievances are a little bit similar, although we would like to have less. I'm not sure you target number of grievances. It's tricky. It is tricky. But the key is that word monitor. And within that, we'll know where we're coming from and whether we are achieving some reduction. Councillor Mackenzie-Brown.
Just to be clear, Chair, I was hoping very much that Becky could say that line 25 outweighs 24.
I think it's a very fair question. To compliments outstrip complaints. Now, in all my years of being here, they've always done that. So I would be very surprised if they don't, but don't burst my balloon now, Mr. Brown.
I'll try not to. Where we try to make them outweigh it, without a doubt, yes, and we tend to have more compliments than complaints.
I'm sure, sir, that you do.
Thank you. Members, the key to corporate measures and within our plan is looking at the data as it becomes available, comparing that to the past and looking at how we improve it going forward. I think this plan is ambitious, I think it is appropriate, and I think with the points made, I'd like to propose its acceptance from the Chair. We're being asked to approve it, so I propose that we approve it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smith, thank you very much indeed. All those in favour? That's unanimous, and well done, officers. We aren't trying to grill you too much this evening, but it's right that we're thorough. I think we're going to be quite thorough on the next one as well, which is the sustainability programme, which Mr. Brooks will introduce, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members, recognising we are in a climate emergency, the authority is committed to reducing the impact of the organisation's operations on the environment and reducing its carbon footprint as confirmed in the signing of the Emergency Services Environment and Sustainability Group Charter by the Fire Authority in February 2023. A baseline study in 2022 by Planet Mark sustainability consultants confirmed that the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service estate contributes 65% of the authority's operational carbon output at 1,524 tonnes of carbon per year. Building on this baseline knowledge, strategic planning was augmented in 2023 by the production of an estate heat decarbonisation plan by net zero specialist consultants Fairfield and Gould, who are now known as Atkins Realis, using £40,450 of public sector decarbonisation scheme grant funding from the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero Low Carbon Skills Fund, administered by Salix. Notably, Atkins Realis was commissioned via the NFCC's National Decarbonisation Procurement Project, which is sponsored by our Deputy Chief Fire Officer. As a result of this detailed work, 11 sites were prioritised for action based on annual energy usage, the use of fossil fuel for heating, along with building age and condition, including the current and ongoing maintenance costs. These 11 priority sites are the donor sites for the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service Sustainability Programme Phase 1 over the next 2 years. Out of the 11 sites, 5 were further categorised as the highest priority based on the PSDS scheme's eligible technologies to reduce energy demand and remove fossil fuels to ensure the highest energy efficiency and carbon reduction is achieved to meet the minimum outcomes expected by Salix. The 5 priority 1 sites, as listed in the paper, are the subject of this funding approval, with the other sites to be covered in a paper to the Management Committee later this year. I'd like to assure members that we intend to make appropriate sustainability improvements across the entire estate over the next 5 years and beyond. And I'll cover some details of what is proposed shortly. Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service worked with Atkins Realis during 2023 to develop a credible bid for funds from the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme Phase 3C for our 5 highest priority sites. The process resulted in Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service receiving notification of a successful bid and full grant offer of £927,845 on the 20th of February 2024. It is worth mentioning here that the bid process is hugely complex and comprehensive, requiring a high level of diligence to assure Salix that Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service understands their estate and how to best make a positive impact. Noting this, I'd like to particularly thank our Sustainability Coordinator, Sophie Fox, for working tirelessly with Atkins Realis in leading this critical activity to a successful outcome. As a measure of the challenge and our level of success, Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service was one of only 3 fire and rescue services to be approved for funding in the 23-24 Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme. Moving on to finance. My report seeks permission from the Fire Authority to approve capital expenditure budget of £1.77 million for delivery of the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service Sustainability Programme Phase 1 as set out and provided for in the Strategic Asset Investment Framework 2024. Members are invited to note that the above budget includes 2 distinct but accountably connected elements. The Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme grant funds of £927,000 £845, representing 52% of the total budget, and Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service contributory funds of £842,155, representing 48% of the total cost. And also to note that the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme element is on a cost recovery basis, paid in arrears, which lead to additional short-term cash outflows before reimbursement has been received. Procurement and project management will be de-risked by continuing to use Atkins Realis via a publicly compliant framework as our strategic consultants. Delivery will be procured using competitive tenders and streamlined by bundling complementary activities and technologies to de-risk schedules and gain best value for money. Scheduling of activities is a key activity to ensure we meet the milestones as laid out in our bid and agreed with Salix, although there are appropriate amounts of contingency built in throughout. The completion date for all initiatives is the 31st of March 2026. And we will be fully engaged with our relationship manager at Salix throughout the delivery of the programme. As I mentioned earlier, I'd like to offer some insights into the proposed technology. We will be adopting a whole building approach and installing low carbon heating using air source heat pumps, remotely monitored building and energy management systems, LED light fittings, roof mounted solar voltaic systems, variable speed drives to control mains electricity energy flow, and fabric improvements like double glazing, roof insulation and cavity wall insulation. Notably, carbon savings will be much more pronounced than financial savings, but carbon is likely to have some monetary value or tax attached in the future, and our approach is definitely prudent spend to save, in my view. Expected benefits are annual savings of over 380,000 kilowatt hours, annual financial savings of circa £60,000, and a direct carbon saving of 132 tonnes per year based on the Salix calculation method. In conclusion, besides the tangible benefits to the service and alignment with our emerging sustainability strategy, the proposed initiatives support wider strategic alignment with the NFCC, UK government, local authorities and the international response to the climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I'm sure we have a number of points from members, particularly in terms of payback. Councillor Smith, I think you might want to kick off.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul, and congratulations for being one of only 3 fire authorities that were approved. That's really good. It's a matter of understanding, you mentioned the Salix calculation tool a number of times. Are the figures that you've got in Appendix 2 coming from that tool? Because some of them are a bit difficult to understand.
It's difficult to understand because it's a very complex spreadsheet that's used, and you've got to plumb into it using the Salix methodology, and it doesn't allow you to opt out of technologies either. So all the technologies are bundled together into the equation. So yet it isn't as clear as it could be. But if you have the entire Salix document, I've got the time to read through it, hopefully that would clarify it.
Okay, because the particular concern I have, for example, is that under the replacement of electric light fittings across the number of the buildings, the reduction in annual kilowatt hours pre-project and post-project seems remarkably small, at 4% for Woking. My experience of doing things like this is much more likely to reduce the energy consumption by very substantial amounts in excess of 50%, not 10%. So I'm just wondering, and that same trend carries through the other buildings. So I'm kind of wondering why that would be. What am I not understanding here?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable question. I have to analyse it a bit further, but it's a collective assessment, and I agree that often LED can deliver quite high savings, go so far as 50%, I'd say probably 30%, so you know that kind of return. But it depends on the entire building, so it's a whole building approach, not just LED in isolation.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Councillor Mackenzie Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Bit of a klutz here, okay, sorry about this. Salix documentation, we can't opt out. Where's the risk? There's a lot of conditional words there.
Yeah, and by opt out, it means that when you're doing the calculation to submit your bid, this is the gap analysis for the estate, for instance, simplify it. There's a number of bits, you've got to go through them all and tick them off. And if you the all align, so all the stars align, you're going to be ticking the box. That means you'll get you've got a high likelihood of getting the funding for that site. What it does mean that you can't say, well, I want to just put a source heat pump in, I don't want to put double glazing on that site. You'll have to put all the technology in to meet the equation output at the end of it.
Yeah, so you're on this track
yeah.
that you can't get off.
No, that's the reason I'm asking for 1.77 million, of course, because that's the total amount and it's in arrears. You won't need to get off the track. It isn't that. They want success, and the analysis they've done to award them their funding is based on our measures of success, and the fact that we've got an extremely high likelihood of success. In my experience with Salix, they do not award projects that are not going to be successful. And I'm confident with the governance we've got in place and the continued support of my team and the specialist consultants and Salix, they are a key part of it. We will have a successful programme in 2 years.
Supplementary, Chair. As my background is in IT and project management, programme management, those words there comfort me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Josh Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions around payback periods, if that's okay. But before I get to that, can you just confirm for me, you said the total carbon emitted by our fire stations themselves is 1,524 tonnes a year, was that?
That's the figure that was in the Planet Mark paper.
Okay. So the 132 tonnes of saving that's projected by the £1.1 million spend is 8.5% of our total carbon, which means to be able to achieve a fully carbon neutral estate, we're looking at 13 million. However, saying that, which makes sense as a £30 million spend overall, the question then when I get to table A2.1 shows £700,000 worth of spend, so over half of our spending, but only delivers 43.26 annual tonnes direct, so 50 tonnes direct and indirect, which is only 3.28% of our overall carbon across the estate. So why are we putting more than half of our money into something that will deliver less than a third of our savings?
Now, I did give you a little heads up, Mr. Brooks, before the meeting started, that you might get some substantial questions, and I'm sure you understood that absolutely completely. And I'm just rambling on to give you an extra few seconds to think about
Thank you, Chair. I was actually waiting for the question to come from the member, actually, because we've chatted in the past about clearly the work we're doing, and I'm very pleased that there's a keen interest in this, and it is getting critically analysed. I think the bit that's missing from there's a lot of percentages and figures in there. It's not a linear equation, so I'm pleased that you've done that. The mathematics says that we need X million. It's highly unlikely it would be like that because of the variables of the building, the stock, and various other things across the estate. But fair enough, I recognise it would not be unreasonable to expect the need for a £30 million investment across our estate based on the variety and the condition of our stock. That is a fact. The discrepancy in the tables is not a discrepancy. All that's missing is the air source heat pump figures are not built into the, and hopefully you pick that up. So that doesn't give you, the air source heat pumps are not in the first table. So they're not in there, and they are added in separately. So I perhaps could have made that a bit clearer. So I think that is a good point.
You want to come back, Councillor Reynolds?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of payback periods then, so looking down the list in that table, A2.1, there's a significant number of lines there which have got very high payback periods. So looking at Wokingham Road Fire Station double glazing, it's got a 70-year payback period for that, with £178 annual saving on a £12.5 spend. Going down the list, there's quite a few lines like that where you've got 65 and 75-year payback periods. That's concerning from my perspective, just on the level of payback that is, and what looks like, if you look at Wokingham Road, fairly small amount of annual carbon saving. Could you talk me through those bits?
Sorry. Yes, another good question. It goes back to Councillor Mackenzie's Boyle question, I think, in some ways as well, is that it's a whole building approach. So it's the collective effect. And yeah, a simple equation of if something is going to give you a very quick payback, something's actually going to have a long payback, then in the round, it'll end up with the payback figures we've got at the end of this. And like I said earlier, it's that the bit I'm talking about is the opting in or out. You've got to do all the technologies. You know, it's about installing that technology to satisfy the whole funding process. And you can't cherry pick technologies as well. I'm just going to put that in and that in because that's got the highest payback. It doesn't work like that. Because underneath all of this, besides installing appropriate technology and decarbonising, there's a need to support the whole sustainability sector as a whole.
Happy for you to come back on
One more question, if that's okay. Thank you, Chair. If we're talking about various items then, so various bits of these have got these high payback periods. So something like if we take Newbury, for example, do we think that Newbury has 40, 50, 60 years worth of asset life left as a station? Because looking through, so you've got one item in Newbury is a 75 year, another is a 27 year, another is a 31, another is a 22. So if Newbury Fire Station is going to need replacing in 15 years' time, my question then becomes financially, why would we do this?
Another good question. I think I would counterback to say that there will be an asset investment programme developed for the estate. We haven't got that yet. It will form part of not the current estate strategy, but a future one. So when the asset verification exercise has been concluded and we come up with an asset investment plan, an asset management plan, do not be surprised if buildings are put into a life extension programme as well. The more sustainable buildings we have got, or the ones we've got, not new ones, that's a fact. So we're not releasing carbon and introducing new carbon. So that, my counter would be that we've done really well in terms of the sale it's calculated to come up with what we've come up with. But if you were to plumb in some of the other figures, we'll probably be even better off once we've got life extension on buildings as well. But it's a good question about that. It is, yes. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Drummond.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Paul. Page 70 on that second bit on there, source heat pumps. Could you explain why the difference between the lowest cost is 134,184 to the highest cost 272,150?
Sorry, say that again.
Well, the lowest total cost of lower carbon heating measures, the lowest cost is 134,184, the lowest, and the highest cost is 272,150.
Yes.
Could you explain why the difference is for the sort? Well, there's quite a bit of difference.
Again, another good question. I have to understand that question a little bit further, I think, Councillor.
I think Deputy would like to...
Okay, sorry. Well, it's not the same amount of technology that's going in. So whilst the same models are going in, it's the system that is being priced in. So it's a good question. So it is about the whole total system cost and not just a single item of plant cost. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
I think the Deputy feels that's been covered.
It has, and to fairness to Paul, in terms of the detail of when these carbon assessments were being carried out, I happen to know that in that particular instance it is as simple as the pipework positioning. So some of them are buried into the walls, some of them are surface mounted. So there's greater cost in terms of replacing the system. So what process?
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring the Vice Chair in last, but Councillor Shepherd-Pay is our lead on this. Did you want to? What you said?
No, I'll speak, and then the rest of you.
All right, you next then.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. Then you.
Yeah, I've sort of got a comment and a question. Actually, on the report, sorry, on one of the pages, it says that this is very pedantic. It says the management committee on the actual report. It says the management committee give the authority, but of course it's us. It's just on the page, the recommendations. Something I spotted, and if I'm going, on page 60, it says recommendations that the management committee approve. I mean, I think we're the fire authority approving. Sorry, it's just it's a dull thing, but we make sure we're the right committee to approve it. I just wanted to say, I mean, just some more general comments. And I have to say, I've sort of, with Councillor Rose, I've sort of plugged my brain in now. Actually, his grasp of statistics is far superior to mine, but really pleased to see members taking this seriously, because a couple of years ago we changed the title of this role, lead member, which was Councillor McElroy first, did a great job, and then Councillor Shepherd-Bay, to add the word sustainability to it, actually, because it was strategic assets. But of course, as people have pointed out, it is, you have to do this in line. So as you rebuild your estate, you obviously put in sustainability and climate action, climate change measures. So that's really important, I think, to say, because just in isolation, I think, as Councillor Rose has pointed out, some of these figures may not make a lot of sense. And of course, there is the lifetime of stations, and I guess our hope would be that we can rebuild all our stations, you know, when we get the resources, and put in solar pumps and solar panels and all sorts of other things, LED lights, and also eventually the fleet, I think, as well. Obviously the white fleet, I think we're really making progress. Obviously the firefighting appliances itself, that's another matter. That might be to do with actually the sort of fuel you use. But the direction of travel will be towards, as much towards net zero as possible, and that is an actual commitment by authority members in general. We've made this, so this is good. And the fact we got the money shows that we are probably a bit better than other authorities. So I'm really pleased to see that. I'm really pleased to see people drilling down the detail, because that's sort of kind of what members are here for, really. And so sorry to come to Mr. Brooks for the questions, but I think you're able to answer most of them and, with good explanations. But thank you.
We're not finished yet.
I'm saying no, Councillor Shepherd.
Councillor Shepherd-Bay.
I was just wondering if you could also detail what we're going to be saving with the white fleet, up to the decarbonisation of them. How much carbon are we removing from the atmosphere? How much carbon are we not transmitting into the atmosphere?
So is that for the white
I'm
fleet?
not sure. Mr. Brooks will be able to answer that. Chief, are you going to? No, Deputy? Mark?
Yeah, it's a good question, and of course this investment is focused on the estate, 65% that we push out. So we are reviewing our fleet strategy, and Paul and other colleagues have already started the wider sustainability focused strategy. The Planet Mark benchmarking that we undertook basically tells us how much carbon comes from our fleet. Off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what that is, but we're already making appropriate investment across the fleet. So white fleet in particular, we have electric vehicles, we have plug-in hybrids, and we're already starting to bring that down. So we could get those figures in terms of what we've already done, but I suppose the thing to look out for is the fleet strategy and the sustainability strategy and action plan that will be coming forward soon. Before July, I believe, is the current timeline.
Yeah, for me, the sustainability strategy will go to SLT in June, and there will be a presentation.
Senior leadership team.
And yeah, as Deputy Chief Fire Officer has indicated, it's all linked together: estate strategy, fleet strategy, and sustainability strategy.
Okay. Councillor McElroy.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you for all the work in this space. I think it's really interesting and inspiring to see it moving forward. It's obvious that the work is in very capable hands. You clearly know your stuff, which is great. Just one thing to get on the radar, I think we talked about previously and got a bit of a groan when we brought it up last time, was the role of water use in this footprint. And I know it's out of scope, obviously, but we use a shed load of water. And we need to use a lot of water, but I think that would probably be a very large part. And so it would be great to see that appear in the sustainability strategy more widely, even if it's just acknowledging it and saying, look, we use a lot of water. There's not much we can do about that, but here's something we can do. And just getting a part of the picture would be great.
That's really good. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, the water, we had our first sustainability workshop last week. The water is on the menu.
Great.
A fairly dry event then, if water's on the menu. I think the thing to remember though is that the more we reduce incidents, the less water we will use. So prevention, and fires have reduced year after year, as we've invested much more in safety, prevention, advice, guidance. Members, I think there's one aspect that I'd like to draw your attention to. We do have a number of stations here that we're going to invest in, and we may not be in Newbury for 70 years at that particular site. But there is also the comfort and the environment that makes it a better place to work. And that includes double glazing, which is a 70-year payback. It includes securing the building such that it will last longer. I couldn't say that we'll be in Newbury for many more years at that site, in that building. But while we are, I feel we should make it not only as environmentally sound, but as comfortable and as, I say modern, you know what I mean, for the staff working there. And if this enables and helps us to do it, I think that is not reason enough on its own, but an important byproduct of the whole programme. And I see you nodding, because our staff need to feel that they're being invested in terms of our estate. And we go from somewhere like Theale, more purpose-built, brand new Crowthorne. These are excellent facilities. They're state-of-the-art, if you like, state of sustainability, which you are going to struggle to achieve in Newbury and Caversham Road, but you have to make measures to achieve. And I think this does. Salix, from everything I've heard tonight, is a complex algorithm, formula, and it's insisting on changes right across the building rather than, as Mr. Brooks said, cherry picking. But I think, members, this is an important investment, a sensible investment. I know Councillor Shepherd-Dubé agrees with that and has been the lead member on this. So I am proposing that we accept this to the Fire Authority, Vice Chair, not the Management Committee. Good to know. And it would, therefore, we are being recommended to approve the capital expenditure budget, and note that it includes two distinct but accountably connected elements at 2.1.2 and 2.1.1. And note that the PSDS element is on a cost recovery basis in arrears. So those recommendations, 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2 bullet points, and 2.1.3, I am going to propose that we approve, note and note. So take them all together. We approve 2.1.1, we note 2.1.2, and we note 2.1.3. And can I take it as a block vote, please? Thank you very much. Do I have a second? I've got a few, not Councillor Reynolds, I noticed, but I think you're comfortable, sir, with the answers you've had. Councillor Shepherd-Dubé, thank you for seconding it. Entirely appropriate. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you to me, you Mr. Brooks. I said you might, be on your mettle on this one, and you certainly were. But I think it's been a very good debate. Okay. We're then on to the corporate calendar. Now, I think I've had a new one up tonight, haven't I? It's the cover report circulated, and the landscape on page, I'll get there in a second, is the 71. Your landscape item 12, gives you the calendar for the upcoming year. You'll notice member workshops in there, which I think are very valuable, enjoyable, and help the service immensely. And then our committee governance structure. Are we comfortable with those, members? I'm looking for a proposal to agree. I'm happy to propose. Councillor Owen Jeffrey to second. All those in favour of the corporate calendar? Thank you very much indeed. And then we have the lead member and member champion annual reports on page 73. They're quite comprehensive, but what I look for is each lead member to do a couple of sentences of introduction I think then I'm pretty much looking for people to ask questions rather than an officer going through every report. There are quite a few of them. If that finds favour. Councillor Smith, you're first up, Budget and Income Generation Lead Member.
Thank you very much, Chair. I won't inflict the full 5 pages on you, but one of the first points I wanted to make was to thank all the officers involved and also the cross-party working group in creating this year's budget, particularly to single out Conor Byrne and his team for being tenacious, diligent, hard-working and finding solutions to problems in a calm and positive manner. We set a budget of over £46 million and with a further, that's revenue, with a further 7.3 million in capital invested in our estates and equipment and IT, which we just talked about, a large chunk of that. This is all while dealing with some of the problems with inflation of 11.11% back in October 22, and also having our preset capped at 2.99%. So the first budget meeting started off with a deficit of 1.41 million, which we addressed. We have limited ability to increase our income. We've additional 3,200 band equivalent properties across the patch, brought in some additional block of income. We've also generated 1.6 million of our own. Of course, we don't know what the pay awards will be. We've budgeted 3.5%, but it may be different. We've also recognised that the HR department needs additional resource to deal with the complexity of the pensions, and also that the lean resourcing model is perhaps a little bit extra lean, and that we need to add 10 additional firefighters over and above what we would normally deal with process of churn and also the apprenticeship scheme additions. A lot of that's going to be paid for by reduced overtime and the efficiency and productivity plan, which will be enabled by the IT investments. So we've been moving our fleet from the oldest, second oldest in England to a much more modern equipment. The IT will bring us efficiency improvements, and we talked at length just a minute ago about the sustainability issues and what that will bring us. Plus we're getting a new training centre and some major refurbishments. So we have managed to keep our general reserve 5% with the budget contingency reserve at 3%, at least £1 million in our development fund. So we're not planning on borrowing anything in the next year, and we are going to invest what we are not using immediately in ethical investments, balancing the needs to ensure security with the best possible income and the ability to access it. So in short, I think it's been a really good year finance-wise, whilst we've dealt with some huge pressures and uncertainties. I commend the report to you. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for all your work, and I'd like to thank Conor Byrne and his department for the excellent way we manage our finances here. Are there any questions on that? Happy to note then. And then moving on to collaboration lead member, Councillor Simon Werner.
Thank you very much. Just 3 quick points to raise rather than reading out the whole report. One is the successful breathing apparatus procurement across the Thames Valley that I think you already mentioned in your introduction. We hope will be both more efficient and effective. It helps with cross-border operations, but also will be more cost-effective. It's still being evaluated, and I'm looking forward to seeing the data from that. But I gather it's saving around £1.1 million. So we also have the Thames Valley Together, which comes out of the Violence Reduction Force unit, and is about sharing data and information to reduce violence and increase fire safety. And finally, the 3 things we've been working on this year. Finally, we have been part of a team looking at the recommendations that came out of the Manchester Arena inquiry. The improvements that come out of that will mean we'll be far better prepared in the case of such similar events. Looking forward, we will be considering the joint procurement of body-worn cameras, sharing training facility, and the Thames Valley-wide operational and technical communications strategy, which is basically a very long way of saying we're going to be doing things like making use of the public's ability to record videos on their smartphone and how we can use that better in the control room. So a lot of good work being done by the officers. Thank you for everything they're doing, and I commend the report.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Any questions on that report? Very happy to note I will be asking for a show of hands to note all reports at the end. The Vice Chair is up next on the CRMP, please.
Yes, thank you, Thank you, Chair. I mean, members may recall that actually at this meeting last year, we moved the 23 to 77 CRMP, which is a really important piece of work for the authority, because it basically lays out how we're going to respond to risk and to tackle that. And members may recall that we spent a lot of time going over the wording to get it right, particularly around priorities 3 and 6. So I suppose at the moment, what I would say, like all these plans, it is a work in progress. So at the moment, as we've repeatedly mentioned tonight, we have got the automatic fire alarm consultation out, which obviously going to sort of preempt the result of that. But we do have a very high number of 45% of our calls for automatic fire alarms, and a very high proportion of those, I think 99% of those, are false alarms. So clearly that's an area of work where we can look to make some improvements and better utilise our resources. But we await the result of the consultation before we make that decision, which will be in June. And the other area is around priority 6, which was where progress has been made in utilising the on-call resources to give us the 14 compliance on the run and reduce our overtime bill at the same time. So as I think progress is being made in that area, but clearly one of the targets in the annual plan was to get the on-call up to 50%. And that is a challenging target, but I think, as I'm led to believe, we are meeting the requirements now, and we are reducing our overtime bill, which of course has budget implications. So, I'd just obviously like to thank, in the report it does say that we've got the integrated service delivery strategy, which is going to come to the June meeting. That's a really important part of this as well. So this is all ongoing work. It's an evolving picture of the CRMP. It's not just, you don't just write it and then put it in tablets of stone. So we work on different risks emerge as well. But I'd obviously like to thank the work of the officers, because it's been a really busy year throughout, and also for all the teams for meeting the exacting targets that we set. And so normally that work continues.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And again, I think we're noting that. And then I come to the Strategic Assets and Sustainability member, Councillor Rochelle Champagne.
I'd like to thank Paul and all of the officers who worked on this project for fresh thinking and independent reviews of some of the projects, which is a different way of doing things. And something sustainability, which I'm not sure is sustainability or not, but we're helping the health of the firefighters by having the contamination zones, and that's actually sustaining the firefighters as well, and making it healthier for them, and making them to be able to work longer and to do the right thing for them. All the stations will be doing some improvements, some will be doing more than others, but all the stations will be doing this, and also thinking about doing things differently, the training center being the way it was built, as opposed to the way we used to do everything. And this is going to show us that we can actually help making the firefighters better location, and also not causing disruption to their normal work.
Thank you, very grateful for that. And again, I move to Councillor Moore Melbourne for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody who's worked so hard to produce this report. And I think that the depth of coverage is very, very impressive. Two things I particularly like to draw your attention to, if I may. One is that apart from the gender pay gap report, which is published, we also have the ethnicity pay gap report. Now, this is not mandatory, and I think it's a testament to all the staff that this is published and made available, and it's something over and above what we're actually required to do. And the other thing, which I find particularly impressive, is the neurodiversity handbook, which I think is honestly the most positive thing I've heard in a long time. And that offers me a very great hope for the future. So, from me, a very big thank you to everybody.
Grateful for that, and again, we note the report. Thank you. You can now step down off the Fire Authority.
I will miss it, but thank you.
Thank you. I'm just teasing. Councillor Griffith on Community Safety.
Thank you, Chair. I'm new to this, so bear with me a little bit. I didn't know that I had to prepare some words. First of all, I want to thank the officers and the prevention teams that have been really fantastic in helping us to sort of go out and talk to communities that perhaps we've not spoken to in the past. I see my role in this is to try and find other groups that we haven't spoken to before to get out and get the message out about fire safety at home and prevention. And I think we've made a good start, but we need to do a little bit more.
And earlier today, it was commented by the Chair, probably by the Chief, the good work you've been doing, by Mr. Bremble as well in the role. So I'm grateful to you. Not that others haven't been doing good work, but I know you've worked hard to raise our profile up in the community. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's noted then. And Councillor Jeffrey on safety, health, fitness and wellbeing. So you're on.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to say that health, safety and wellbeing is a very clear priority within the authority, and I'm pleased to confirm to members that issues are being reviewed and being drilled into by the Health and Safety and Wellbeing Committee are taken very seriously indeed, and particularly the mental health of staff is an area that is having major work put into it. And very, very, very specifically, I just, if you go to page 118, it says there in the third paragraph, I had the opportunity to observe the physical test for potential firefighters. Yes, it was informative, but it was also extremely reassuring in that the tasks that the potential firefighters were being put through were definitely tough. They were definitely being supported and encouraged, but it was only that the individuals concerned that were able to actually do the job. Somebody might be walking alongside saying, keep it going, you've only got a few seconds left to finish this particular task. But it was the person who was doing it that actually had to get it done. And I was very, very impressed with the way in which it was being handled. I commend this report to the authority.
And again, we're grateful to you for your efforts on that. Finally then, the Armed Forces Champion, Rachel Shepherd-Dupay.
Looking at our corporate compact, I was at one of the meetings this week. Sorry, I was at one of the meetings just recently about representing the authority, and we're looking at how we are helping the people coming from the military to join the firefighting service. And the good thing about this is they're used to uniform, let's say, actions, and they're better doing this. And coming out of the military and joining the fire service is similar enough that a lot of the things can be translated, and for understanding how to properly obey commands, and when to not necessarily obey commands, which is something the military doesn't always teach you.
I'm grateful to that, and we won't unpick that. But we note your comments and we note the report. Also on 3.2, thank you, Councillor Jeffrey, for your work as Member Development Champion, which was reported at Audit and Governance on 28th of March. Members, you can see a lot of work has gone into these reports. You can see they're very valuable to us. I thank all members and officers supporting those members, be they champions or lead members. And I'd like to propose a block vote to note these reports from A to H. Do I get a second of that, please? Councillor Werner, grateful to you. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much indeed. And so we then come, I think, to the forward plan. I think it might be fair to say, and this page 123, 124, let's go to it. It's your landscape page, and you can see the upcoming items that we will be addressing over the months to come. This is a changing feast, of course, but we do know these will be coming through, and they're appropriate to do so. Are you comfortable with these? And I guess we note them again? Yes. You're happy to do that without a show of hands, I hope, Monitoring Officer. Thank you very much. We then have minutes which are available at the URL that you can see on our RBFRS website. And again, we're noting those minutes. And then the date of the next meeting is Monday the 24th of June. Again, we're noting that. And as I say, I wish you well in the interim. I wish those people standing for election well. And I will close the business, I think, with that statement.